last night there was the opening of the NFL kickoff season.
Mm-hmm.
The Ravens and the Chiefs played, and there was a Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports. We all know Dave Portnoy.
Yeah.
He made a $300,000 bet on the Ravens to win outright.
Okay.
And on the last second, the guy scored a touchdown. And it was reviewed, and it was overturned because his toe, like a centimeter, was touching the line.
Yeah.
And so he loses $300,000. Is sports betting a good way to spend your money?
Well, I think inherently everybody knows the answer is no. People go to varying degrees. People do like to brag about their wins in sports betting. It's something that gets you emotional and hype. And, you know, investing, I know I'm not going to double my money overnight, literally overnight. So it's not as exciting as something like you just described, where it's the last second of the game, the fourth quarter. He's out by just an inch. Oh my gosh, Portnoy almost cashed in. But Portnoy works for DraftKings. So that $300,000, I bet he made a lot more than that from DraftKings directly for getting so many eyeballs on the sport. What a great season opener, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about it right now.
Yeah.
You know, and so, but I'm confused. You're saying that the bet, I mean, you can double your money overnight. Well, I see all kinds of TikTok and Instagram accounts. These guys are killing it. Laith was just telling us his friend has not lost, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
You know the rules of evidence, right?
Yeah, I do.
If it's not acceptable evidence in court, then I'm not accepting it to believe something or not. I actually, right before I came in here, I was just waiting in the lobby browsing Instagram, and the first thing that pops up, it's not even a gambling account. It's only in Dade. They show like crazy stuff that happens in Miami. And it was a paid partnership, and it said 19-year-old sports gambler or sports bettor, they probably don't say gambler, buys his mom a $2 million house or whatever. And that's meant to lead you to believe that there are certain people out there who can find an edge and consistently win and sort of make a career out of gambling on sports, which is actually, we have enough data out there that we know that that's actually probably not possible. I mean, there may be an outlier somewhere here and there who can find a very specific niche and be very disciplined. But you're not going to do that.
Do you think, I mean, what is the financial impact of sports betting now?
It's gotten huge. So, they had this whole Supreme Court battle to legalize it in state, to let the states decide, and many states are legalizing it. And in 2023, Americans bet $120 billion on sports.
With a B.
With a B, yeah, that's a lot of money. And you can now that these companies have come public, companies like DraftKings, they have to show their data every 90 days. So now we all get an insight to kind of what's going on behind the scenes with the business. So Americans bet $120 billion. Sports betting companies made about $11 billion.
Wow.
Which is pretty much in line with, you think a bookie wants to get equal bets on both sides, right? And both, you're paying a 10% vig, you're paying it. Whoever loses pays the 10% vig. But if I have equal bets on both sides, then I'm guaranteed to make 10% on whatever volume I'm bringing in. So we used to have these regional bookies. You'd go to your boy who only deals with people in South Louisiana. So like when everybody wants to bet on the Saints or LSU, you actually have to pay more of a vig than somebody else would. But now we have and bookies would have to talk to each other to lay off bets on one another so that they could all try to equalize. Now you have a public company that's operating themselves in every state. And so they can, within themselves, they have an equalized book, and they're just printing money. All they do is made an app that you can go on, and all you have to do is keep track of the bets and, basic financial services to make it easy to get money in and out. A lot more money coming in than out, obviously. But the thing is, if they're making $11 billion, then obviously on the whole, bettors are losing $11 billion, a little bit more maybe.
Yeah, and they spent a bunch of money on advertising too, so they probably their cut was probably a lot more than that.
Yeah, and what's happening now is the parlays. They're making a killing on parlays.
Why are parlays bad bets?
Because so you can kind of intuitively know what the odds might be again with Baltimore or Kansas City. You know that like you can kind of tell one might be more likely to win than another.
You understand why there's a 3-point spread.
You understand why there's a 3-point spread. But when it comes to parlays, you're looking at 3, 4, 5 even different events that all have to hit. And so you need to know the math on what are the odds of all those things happening together, because even if one misses, you lose the whole thing.
I was at the golf course the other day, and this kid, he's 24 years old. He sits at our table and he says, "Gentlemen, are you guys sports bettors?" And we're like, "No." He's like, "I don't care. This is the surest win of all time. It's a 3-leg parlay. The first one is X, the second one is B, the third one is C. The first leg was Florida State winning."
Yeah.
And he lost mightily on that one. He didn't even make it to the second leg. And this kid thought that he had the surest bet of a lifetime, put all the money on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just there's what you're saying is the inherent odds of one thing is difficult in of itself, but when you add 2 other layers, it's nearly
the math gets a lot more. The math gets more complex than you can just kind of figure intuitively in your head. You actually have to pull out a calculator.
Does the house win more on parlays?
Yeah, they way more, way. It's like the innovation that has led to DraftKings stock being up 250%.
So the traditional bet head up would be like the roulette wheel, where it's black or red, and there's that little chance that you get neither.
Yeah, there's 2 greens.
There's 2 greens, and then on this one, on the parlays, it's more like a slot machine.
Yeah, actually, that's a great way to put it. Because, the slot machine, you don't really know what the odds are. You just know that I can bet a little bit and get a lot, and I like that idea.
So what the sports bettor would tell you, because you invest in stocks, would say, well, you're betting on companies. What's the difference?
Yeah, and you know what? That's a great question. I would say there are things that are knowable, and there are things that are not knowable. And if you're betting on something that's not knowable, then you're gambling. But every once in a while, and to be clear, most people who are buying stocks are also gambling, because they don't know what's going to happen with this company. They have no particular insights. They have no expertise in whatever business they're buying. What do I know about NVIDIA, actually? I mean, I know the narratives around it. Do I know how I've actually studied this a good bit. Do I know how exactly they build these chips and why they're worth 20 grand a piece? Not really. I don't know what the competitive landscape is. I don't know. I know it's like the hottest place to be. We have this whole thing called the CHIPS Act, where the government is paying people to build out semiconductor capacity. But even knowing all that stuff, like, I've never worked in semiconductor. I have no reason to have an insight into whether or not NVIDIA is worth $3 trillion. But my instincts tell me that seems expensive. I can't justify why it should be worth that much, so I stay away from it. Other people are only looking at a price on a screen. They watch it squiggle this way, squiggle that way, and they fool themselves into thinking that you can gain important insight, something that is knowable and important, but they want to believe it, and so they don't have that. They don't scrutinize enough. They don't have the skills to look at rules of evidence and know that something is probably maybe not false, but just you don't know that for sure.
But you're also saying that you know something that the rest of the market doesn't know, right? Because the current market thinks it's worth $106 today.
Yeah, so
that's all knowing, all
correct,
believing, all investing.
Yeah, so there's a concept called efficient market hypothesis, which people argue about a lot over whether the market's efficient or not, which means that most prices are accurate based on everything that we currently know. Taking all the information we currently know, investors are very smart and sophisticated. What do you know that Goldman Sachs doesn't already know about a certain stock, right? So all of the information is already we call it's priced in. That's kind of the lingo. That's priced in.
Right.
Oh, you think NVIDIA is going to move because they posted good earnings? It moved 2 weeks ago because it's going to post good earnings.
The rate cuts that are coming up or not coming up or whatever, it's already priced in.
Yeah. So you need to find something that's not priced in, which is very hard to find. And so markets are efficient. And the reason they still move a lot is because nobody knows, no matter how many PhDs you hire, how much data you get, no one knows the future. And so we're all kind of guessing, even though we know so much, you just can't predict the future.
Wouldn't another difference between sports betting and betting on stocks, let's just call it by the ugly term, betting on stocks, is that you actually own an asset versus a speculation?
So what do you own? As soon as DraftKings takes your money, what did you get in exchange for your money? It's a contract, really, with a determinable outcome. And so you're kind of buying an option. It's a contract that gives you the right to take in money if a certain event happens. When you buy a stock, you have real ownership of an actual business. The business could do well, it could do poor. The stock could do well or poor, independent of how the business does. But you actually own something that's real. It's a claim on tangible assets and real cash flows and real profits that you are legally entitled to.
It's a microscopic ownership of the entire business.
Correct. Yeah. And so when I think about buying a stock, I'm thinking about whether I would want to own this entire business. And then, you cut that into 0.00001% of what I can afford of this business. But it's the same thing. You should think about it like an owner, because that's literally what you're doing. You're buying a piece of a business.